Welcome, everybody, to Careers in Sight. My name is Derek Calvert, and I'm the program manager with the Montana Educational Talent Search Program. So glad that you guys can join us today. We've been exploring various different career fields, and today we get the opportunity to explore the field of manufacturing. So we have an amazing guest today. If you could please introduce yourself and let the students know who you are and what you do, that would be awesome.
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Maggie Fairclough. I'm a machinist at Boeing, Helena, and I graduated the machining program at Helena College in 2017.
Excellent. So we get to kind of explore a little bit into the field of manufacturing today. For people who are watching right here and now, make sure to comment any questions that you might have, any interests, or if you just want to give us a good thumbs up and like the stream, go ahead and do that. If you are tuning in later, feel free to comment with any questions. We welcome you here right now, and we will always be able to tune in and answer any questions that you have here or later on. So, Maggie, looking into your job, help us understand what a typical day for you looks like.
Yeah, so I'm a machinist, and so here at Boeing, Helena, we run very large-scale parts on large-scale machines. And so a typical day for me is I have to, there's programs that come out of our programming section, and they send them out to us at the machines, and we have to set up parts using cranes, forklifts. We have to dial everything in and make sure everything's, zeroed and exactly where it needs to be to the thousandths of an inch. And then we use the giant controller. They're Japanese made, but they've converted it all to English. And then we go through, we have to start everything. We have to double, triple check everything before we start these machines because they do exactly what you tell them to do, no matter if they're going to crash into something or not. So we need to make sure that everything, like step by step, is perfect. And then along with that, we need to, make sure cutting tools are right. We need to make sure measurements are correct. It's a lot of stuff, but it all ties together really well. And yep, we'll run those for, some of the programs will run for, 2 hours. Some of them will run for about 70 hours. So it's a lot, and we need to, because of like the large scale, someone does need to be there watching them all the time and watching the machines every move. So it's a lot of monitoring.
Yeah, wow. And I imagine that there's definitely a high importance in making sure that everything runs smoothly for not only safety purposes for the workers, but then whatever everything is used for in the future as well.
Yeah. So I make part of one of the parts that holds the wing on to a 787, and so because of that, obviously we have a ton of quality checks throughout, and then we also are regularly audited by the FAA, and they come in and we'll just dive into exactly what you're doing and making sure that it's up to code for your safety and then also for the integrity of the part.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is this something that you have always wanted to do, or what made you choose this career?
I had no idea what machining was until I was probably about 21, and I was working at a coffee shop here in town, and one of my regulars actually was the head of administration for Helena College. And she was like, what are you doing? What are you doing here? Like, you're too smart to be. Do you want to work at a coffee shop forever? And I was like, well, I guess not. And she very bluntly was just like, what do you want to do? You want to work at Boeing? And I was like, I don't know what Boeing is. I don't know what that does. And so she's like, okay, you need to set because traditional conventional education, I tried it right out of high school. It was not for me whatsoever. I didn't really have any field that jumped out at me. And so she's like, you should look into trade school. And in my mind, I thought that people who went into trades were ones that had been, set on it, trained for it, their entire life, started it in high school and then knew that they wanted to do it. I was like, I don't know anything about it. I can't just jump into it. But I was like, okay. I went to the college, I took the tour of the shop, and the way that they kind of sold it to me was, you don't need to come in here and know everything. You don't need to know anything. Like, we'll give you everything that you need. You just need to show up and you need to want to learn. And I just kind of looked around. I looked at all of the crazy machines, and I was like, I don't know the first thing about any of this stuff, but they just made it so inviting in the sense, like, no, you can do this. Like, you don't, like, don't be scared or intimidated by any means. Like, you can do this. Like, we know you can. And so I started that next fall. I was the only girl in my 2 years at college, and then I'm the only girl doing what I do now at Boeing.
Wow.
And yeah, so once I got into it, I was like, this is like a lot. It's not only, I was very kind of on the, like, the artsy side in high school, to like do and create stuff. And so for this, it was like, you're still creating stuff. You're still taking a piece of metal and turning it into a very high tech, anything that you were making, especially in school. We made like gun parts, we made car parts, we made like knives, we made fishing reels, all sorts of stuff. And so to take that and actually see your work, and then you get it's a lot of manual labor plus a lot of like computer coding too. And so it's a lot of stuff. And I think that it was a lot of innovating, a lot of like creativity that needed to be done. And because it's not an exact science by any means. And so it's just a lot of fun. It's very interesting. You're never bored.
Oh, I can't imagine. So I guess being in that field, is there anything that, especially when you're just getting into it, anything that caused any fear or anxiety, I guess, in jumping in? Or?
Oh, I was terrified. I was, yeah, like I said, I was the only girl in the class, and then the average age was probably around 40, and it was in like with men who had been doing in the industry for years, but they just wanted to go get their actual certificate. Or I was with other people like right out of high school who had been doing it their entire high school careers and actually had the foundation of knowledge. And I went in with nothing. Like my first day of class, I was like, I don't know what we do here, you know? So yeah, it was scary for sure, but it just took a kind of a lot of like work focusing, and then learning from everyone else in class and not just from the instructor. You're gaining knowledge from everyone else. And so yeah, it was definitely intimidating for the first part, but then once I got into it, I was like, I belong here just like everybody else does.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. I know anybody could really get intimidated or scared just jumping into any career field.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome to see that you definitely standing out among the crowd, being able to take that jump and that step and really making a name for yourself, doing whatever you can, and now you're in a career that you just really enjoy and you're working hard. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
So I guess with that, I mean, what would you say is the best part of this job?
The skills that I've got, like basic, everything from basic hand tool skills to like in-depth computer coding, that's like a second language to me now, and having it all tied together. It's like I don't need to just make airplane parts forever. There's a ton of doors that are open for me career-wise. I don't feel like I'm stuck by any means. And then not only that, though, in the aerospace industry, constantly growing, constantly innovating. And so I get to take all the skills that I learned in school and apply it to the actual specific industry that I'm in. And I work with a bunch of people who've never gone to school, like didn't go to school for it at all. And I just noticed that I kind of had a leg up when I started versus people who had been there for, almost 10 years who never got basic blueprint reading classes or, the actual computer coding themselves. It's all kind of on the job training. And I went in, with all of that knowledge anyways. And it was a lot easier, I think, for me to adjust and then excel.
That's awesome. So, so by going to having those college classes under your belt, you learn some things and you're able to step in pretty easily. And then with this career and having those skills, you're able to to know and at least have the confidence to that you can expand and go any which way that you would want to go, really.
Right. Like, I don't think that I have to do this forever, or I don't have to be at one job. I can go and I could eventually, manage an entire team of them, or, go on and start writing the programs for the parts, or, there's just a ton of different jobs. And even if I wanted to switch fields, I know, like, I could go into the medical field, and I looked into this and make, like the plates and the pins that go in people when they hurt themselves and everything. And yeah, it's just there's tons of manufacturing jobs and not a lot of manufacturers. So yeah.
So there's a good possibility that if somebody really wanted to get this training and get the skills that are necessary, they could probably get a job in this field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even managers at my current job just started like straight to manager jobs instead of actually working their way up. And so they have a harder time because they don't understand the technical part of having to lead everything. But if I wanted to like go and take a couple business classes or something, then I could eventually move up and be a manager, which is my goal at some point.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what would you say would be the hardest part of this job?
Like I said, everything's always innovating, growing, changing. We're trying to make everything a lot more effective. The biggest thing with machining is, like I said, some of these parts take, days to make. And our goal all the time is to, how do we speed this up? How do we make this faster? And so it does get a little hard with the constant adjustments of like your daily routine, because you're like, no, we're not doing it this way anymore. We're doing it this way so we can shave 5 minutes off your day or something. And so it's very little things. And then also every single safety measure is like number one importance all the time. And so you're trying to do all of these things to make parts go faster or parts better, but then you have to also be conscious of, it's your safety and then all of the FAA guidelines too. And so it's a lot. It gets overwhelming sometimes, but so it's hard to keep up with all of that, but at the same time, it's what makes it exciting, because like I said, you're never bored with it. It's always something.
Yeah.
And there's just a constant like overlay of, how do we make this better? How do we make this safer, faster, stronger, everything? Yeah.
Make it better, but at the same time, not sacrificing safety, for
right.
Just making it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that can be stressful at times too. But yeah, just having to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so do you have, I imagine that there's plenty of students that have either been interested or are curious with this. Do you have any advice for any high school students looking into this field, looking into this career?
Yeah, the biggest thing is like, go to your trade school. They're great with giving out tours. You can kind of look in on a few classes, because they know that like exposure for trade schools isn't what they want it to be yet. It's not very high, and so they want to get the word out. They want to do everything they can to get you just to come in and at least to look. And it's incredibly friendly. It's like everyone's there to learn. You know what I mean? It's not a competition. You don't need to walk in knowing everything. Everyone's kind of everyone's there to learn and to get better. And so everyone is on your side pretty much. No one wants to see you fail. So yeah, just ask a few questions. You can look around. I know I was in the school we had the machining shop, welding, diesel, auto. I think that was it. But yeah, and all of those trades then, because it is a trade school, they're all very intertwined. Everyone's working with each other, so you get knowledge of just about a little bit of every other department.
Yeah, and That sounds really great.
Yeah.
And I know in many high schools across the state, there's definitely opportunities to at least dip your feet in, you dip your toes in into this field with like shop classes and things of that matter. Um, if students are interested in a little bit as well. Um, and I just want to mention again, if you do have any comments or any questions, a specific question for Maggie, make sure to mention it in the comments. We'll try to get to that. And I also, Maggie, I remember you saying that you're interested in art in high school, and then you found yourself in this career field. Do you have I guess, any students who might not really be interested in this field, what could you say to a student who is an art student, or maybe say to yourself way back then about this field?
So while I took a bunch of art classes in high school, and it was like fun, but at the same time, it's not. It's like you don't make a career out of it. This is just fun for right now. You're not really. There's not a big market for freelance painters in Helena, Montana, surprisingly. But it's great because I still get to go and I still get to. I'm not sitting at a desk all day. I'm like using my hands and my mind to create something. It's not out of a typical material that I was ever used to. I never really did art like projects with titanium back in the day, but now you still get to create something. It's your work sitting in front of you, and then you see it go and being put on something huge like an international airplane. And it's just one of millions of parts, but it's your part, and you did that, and you get to add then your work to something bigger and see it actually function and be something really useful.
Yeah. It almost sounds like there's a little bit of art, a little bit of math and science, and all just coming into one, working into the different trades that manufacturing can be the different careers in that field.
And it's a useful trait to have, to look at something kind of more from, you're looking at it more as an art project, like from that kind of perspective rather than a math and science perspective, because then that's how you make things better and more exact and molded more to where it needs to fit. So it is useful.
That's great. Well, I'm not seeing any comments from anybody, but just as I said before, if you're watching this later on, you're watching this in the replay, make sure to comment any questions, and we can always contact Maggie to ask her some question, or we can always do our best to answer that question for you as well. So thank you so much, Maggie, for joining us today. We're so grateful for your time, and just definitely impressed by your example and moving forward in really taking advantage of the trade school and the offerings that they have there, and making it into a career. So yeah, no problem. All right, well, we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.